Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're cracking open a seriously fascinating, incredibly intricate true crime case file. We're going to deconstruct a locked room mystery that honestly feels like it was ripped straight out of a classic detective novel, but with this layer of modern high-stakes corporate espionage thrown right on top. We're going to break down the timeline, the evidence, and the hidden agendas, step by step to see exactly how a master manipulator pulled the strings. So here's the core paradox we're tackling today. How on earth do you solve a murder when the killer has, well, seemingly just evaporated from a perfectly sealed environment? I mean, our victim is Victor Harrington, a massive titan of industry, found dead in his own home. The security systems were totally armed, the door was bolted from the inside, and there was absolutely no way out. Or, at least so it seemed. Now, to really wrap our heads around this crime, we've got to set the scene. Picture this. It's October 17th. Harrington Manor is perched up there like this Gothic sentinel right on the cliffs, overlooking a stormy Pacific Ocean. Inside, though, it's a totally different world. 62-year-old Victor Harrington, the head of Harrington Dynamics, a massive conglomerate building everything from defense satellites to pharma patents, is hosting one of his infamous autumn galas. We're talking 200 guests in a grand ballroom, crystal chandeliers, champagne flowing, the scent of expensive perfume. It is the absolute ultimate display of wealth and power. But as you'll see, a perfectly normal high society gala turns into a nightmare really fast. Let's walk through this timeline chronologically. At 9:40 p.m., Victor's executive assistant, Sophia, brings him some documents. Just 5 minutes later, at 9:45 p.m., Victor excuses himself and walks into his private third-floor study alone, locking the door behind him. At 9:50 p.m., his business partner, Richard, gives a toast down in the ballroom. Everything seems totally fine until 10:30 p.m., when Victor's wife, Lydia, makes a horrific discovery. A scream just shatters the party. Victor is found slumped over his antique oak desk with a single bullet wound to the temple. Now, what's really interesting about these findings is the sheer volume of totally contradictory evidence that Inspector Elena Voss and medical examiner Dr. Singh run into almost immediately. Inspector Voss, who is this 41-year-old investigator famous for dissecting alibis like a surgeon, spots the anomalies right away. Yes, the door was definitely locked from the inside, but the security cameras on the third floor, they experienced this highly localized, highly professional 12-minute glitch. Worse than that, the autopsy revealed a powerful sedative in Victor's half-drunk scotch. And the gun? It was a .38 revolver registered to Victor, sure, but the gunshot residue didn't match the angle of the wound at all. Someone had physically pressed the gun into his fingers after he was already dead. This absolutely wasn't a suicide, it was a staged execution. And then there's this incredibly chilling detail. Right there on Victor's desk blotter, scrawled in his own shaky handwriting, is just one single word: veil. Now, you have to wonder, was this a literal message, or was Victor directly summoning Inspector Voss, because her actual department nickname was the Veil, since nothing stayed hidden when she showed up on a scene? He knew something was coming for him. Section 1. Motives and Secret Agendas. Because, let's be real, in a billionaire's mansion, everyone has a secret. As Inspector Voss starts peeling back the layers of Harrington Dynamics, she realizes pretty quickly that practically everyone in Victor's inner circle had a desperate reason to want him gone. Just look at these numbers. Harrington Dynamics was bleeding a massive amount of cash from the inside. Richard Lang, the business partner, had siphoned $47 million through offshore shell companies. Lydia Harrington, the wife, had a secret Swiss account with $12 million that she'd slowly drained from Victor's personal holdings. And Damien, the son? He owed $1.8 million to Las Vegas syndicates. Victor was on to all of them, which meant his death was incredibly convenient for literally everyone's bank account. So let's play detective for a second and rapidly break down this matrix of intersecting lies and alibis. We've got Lydia, motivated by inheritance and freedom, alibied by the mayor's wife, but with a faint tremor in her hands that makes precision marksmanship pretty unlikely. Then there's Damien, desperate and volatile, claiming he was in the billiard room, but with a crucial 9-minute gap in his alibi right around the time of the murder. We have Richard, absolutely desperate to hide his $47 million fraud, who conveniently briefly left the stage after his toast. And finally, Sophia, the assistant. She was actually having an 18-month affair with Victor, but was also helping Richard skim money. She was right there in the hallway, and crucially, she had the computer science degree needed to glitch those cameras. Naturally, Inspector Voss initially zeroed right in on these two as the most likely accomplices. And man, during questioning, the pressure completely broke them. They turned on each other instantly. Richard claimed the theft, the affair, and the murder were all Sophia's idea. Sophia fired right back, calling him a coward and accusing him of actually pulling the trigger while she only handled the logistics. But here's the catch. While they were definitely guilty of corporate fraud, the precise, calculating staging of that locked room just didn't fit their panicked, chaotic dynamic at all. Section 2. The hidden passage. It's time to finally break this locked room paradox. Okay, so inside Victor's wall safe, the police find these hidden, encrypted USB drives and a leather journal. And Victor's final entry? It literally reads, "The veil sees all. If I fall, show her the pattern." He absolutely knew a storm was coming. He had documented Richard's fraud on a $2.4 billion defense contract. He documented Damien's debts and even Lydia's secrets. He was intentionally leaving breadcrumbs for Inspector Voss. And those physical breadcrumbs lead straight to this guy, Elias Crow. Investigators pull a partial fingerprint off the revolver's grip that belongs to this total ghost of a hitman, an ex-Special Forces cleaner who specialized in corporate dirty work. But when Voss's team tracks Crow to a rundown motel 20 miles away, they find him dead, his throat slit. A ruthless, highly professional cover-up was already underway. Whoever was behind this was cleaning house. Meanwhile, back at the manor, Inspector Voss is just staring at that word veil on the blotter, and it hits her. What if it's a literal clue about the physical room itself? She pulls back the heavy velvet curtains behind the desk and notices these incredibly faint lines on the wall paneling. Pressing them triggers a hidden door. It turns out to be a 1920s priest hole-style passage built during the manor's original construction, leading straight down into a utility corridor behind the ballroom. The impossible exit is finally explained. You could enter the study, commit the murder, and then manipulate the simple deadbolt from inside the passage using a thin wire tool. Section 3. Lifting the veil. Let's guide you through the final deduction phase here. Inspector Voss realizes that to pull this off, the killer needed decades of intimate knowledge of the house, high-level administrative access to the security systems, and the cold-blooded patience to orchestrate an absolute masterpiece of revenge. So the crucial point is how Victor's own wife manipulated this locked room to perfection. Let's walk through Lydia's execution plan step by step. Step 1. She used admin access, given to her by Victor years ago for safety, to glitch the third-floor cameras. Step 2, she snuck through that hidden passage she'd known about for decades. Step 3, she sedated Victor's scotch, waited for him to get groggy, and then shot him. Step 4, she wiped the weapon, placed Victor's prints on the gun, and exited back into the passage, smoothly relocking the door behind her. But, as meticulous as she was, nobody is absolutely perfect. Voss actually finds the undeniable proof that brings Lydia down. One single diamond and onyx earring. It was dropped right there on the narrow stairs of the hidden passage during her escape. It exactly matched the jewelry she wore the night of the gala, complete with her DNA right on the clasp. Add to that the burner phone records linking her personal trainer's gym locker directly to the hitman, Elias Crow, and her fate was sealed. When you step back and look at it, Lydia's plot was just a chilling masterpiece of invisible control. I mean, think about it. She discovered the massive corporate fraud. She hid her own humiliating affair with Richard. She hired the hitman to help stage the scene, and then eliminated him to tie up loose ends. She even wrote Veil on the blotter herself. She specifically summoned Inspector Voss, knowing a brilliant detective would uncover the fraud and the affairs, perfectly framing Richard or Sophia for the murder. All of this, while Lydia played the grieving widow, claiming the fortune and securing company control via proxy votes. In the end, Lydia is convicted of first-degree murder. Richard takes a plea deal, Sophia's career is totally ruined, and Damien spirals into rehab. The whole board is basically swept clean. But as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final thought. Lydia claimed Victor spent 30 years controlling her, parading his affairs, and threatening to leave her completely penniless. She chose survival by orchestrating the perfect storm. So while legal justice was served, looking at the toxic empire he built and the betrayals he fostered, did Victor Harrington get exactly what he deserved? Think about that as we close the file on the Harrington Manor locked room mystery. Until next time, keep analyzing the details.